I still don't know why I said yes to that call. The client didn't leave a name, only a recording, distorted, whispering, asking me to document the house on Hollow Creek Road before it's torn down. They said they'd pay double my normal rate, cash. I should have known then it was wrong. Every place with a name like Hollow Creek hides something that never left. I parked at the end of a long gravel drive, headlights catching a two-story farmhouse slumped beneath dying oaks. Paint blistered, windows boarded. The air smelled of wet wood and rot. My gear sat on the passenger seat, EMF reader, voice recorder, infrared camera, and a fresh notebook. I whispered into the recorder, a habit I learned to keep myself calm. Case 42. Hollow House. Arrival time 11:47 p.m. Exterior shows advanced decay, no power lines connected. Proceeding to entry. The front gate creaked like a throat clearing itself. When I stepped through, the wind stopped. Total stillness, the kind that presses on your eardrums. Even the insects went quiet. Inside, the door gave with one shove. The smell hit first, mildew, animal musk, and something sweeter, almost metallic. My flashlight beam cut through drifting dust, catching family portraits melted by water damage. Every face looked scraped away, as if the photo had rotted only where eyes used to be. I set up the camera on the mantel, flicked on the EMF meter. Nothing. Flat green. Then the recorder clicked by itself. A soft hiss filled the room. Turn it off. The voice was faint, like breath across glass. I spun, but the room was empty. My own reflection in a cracked mirror looked wrong, slightly delayed. It blinked a moment after I did. I told myself it was stress. Jet lag. Anything but what it felt like, the house watching back. I moved toward the staircase. Each step moaned, boards flexing under me. Halfway up, the EMF needle jumped red, whining like a mosquito. Then I heard it, faint humming above me. A woman's voice, tuneless, repeating one note. At the landing, I found a nursery. Wallpaper of faded clouds peeled from the walls. A crib sat in the center, rocking on its own. Inside the crib lay a bundle of blankets shaped like a child. When I reached to pull them back, the humming stopped. The blankets were full of dust and nothing else. But pressed into the mattress beneath them was the shape of a face, cheeks, lips, even teeth, burned into the fabric as if someone had screamed there long ago. My recorder flicked on again. A new voice, male this time, whispering right against the mic, downstairs. In the walls. I ran the audio back. The whisper wasn't on playback. Only silence. The EMF meter whined louder. Something scraped inside the wall behind the crib, slow, deliberate. I pressed my ear to the plaster. Faintly, I heard breathing. Then, tapping. 3 taps, pause, 2 taps. A rhythm I'd heard once before in another house that never should have existed. The plaster bulged outward like something pushing from the inside. I stumbled back as a nail popped free and clattered to the floor. The bulge flattened again. Silence. My pulse hammered in my throat. I backed out of the nursery, whispering into the recorder. Unidentified movement inside north wall. Possible animal nest. Will investigate after. A crash cut me off. The front door had slammed shut downstairs. I hurried down. The air felt heavier, thick with dust or ash. The EMF meter blinked red continuously now, shrieking like a fire alarm. In the foyer, the door stood wide open. Cold air poured through. Outside, the trees were perfectly still again, but my footprints on the porch were gone, as though I'd never walked in. Something about that emptiness drew me forward. Just beyond the porch, the ground dipped into what looked like an old root cellar. A wooden hatch half buried in leaves. The padlock lay snapped beside it, rust flakes fresh. Every instinct screamed to leave. Instead, I pointed the camera, pressed record, and lifted the hatch. Warm air spilled up, damp and foul, like something exhaling from the earth. A staircase descended into pure dark. At the bottom, I could see faint light flickering, orange, like candle flame. I took one step down, then another. The sound changed. The wind above vanished, replaced by a low, steady whisper coming from everywhere at once. It's been so long since someone listened, my recorder clicked off on its own. The EMF meter shattered the needle and died. The only light left was that orange glow waiting below. Heartbeat slows, matches the sound of dripping water. I whispered one last note for the tape, though it wasn't recording anymore. Entering the cellar now. Then I descended into the dark. The cellar steps felt soft under my boots, like the wood was breathing. Each creak sounded too alive. I counted 12 steps before reaching dirt. The air was hot, wet, and sweet with decay. My flashlight beam jittered across a low tunnel braced by rotting beams, leading deeper into the dark. The orange glow came from candles, hundreds of them, melted into the walls. Their flames didn't flicker. They burned perfectly still, as if the air refused to move. I raised my camera. The viewfinder glitched, static lines rippled through the image. For a moment, the walls seemed covered in faces. Then they were just wax again. That's when I noticed the carvings. Symbols cut into the stone foundation, circles around eyes, jagged lines that spiraled inward. The same pattern repeated everywhere, even under the wax drips. I whispered into the recorder, though it wasn't supposed to work anymore. Basement has extensive carvings. Possible ritual markings. Unknown language. Then something moved at the edge of the tunnel, a shadow that didn't match the candle's direction. It slid along the wall, tall and thin, pausing just before turning the corner. I froze. When I stepped closer, the shadow stepped closer too. I aimed my flashlight straight ahead, and the light passed through it. The outline shivered, then collapsed into smoke. I turned to go back up the stairs, but the way was gone. The staircase had folded into the wall like wet paper. Just smooth earth where I came from. No way out, I whispered. The whisper came back, perfectly mimicking my voice, no way out. The candles blew out all at once. The darkness felt thick, pressing against my skin. I tried to flick the flashlight, but it only glowed faintly, just enough to reveal that the carvings were no longer static. The lines began to move, twisting like worms beneath the surface. I realized they weren't carved at all. They were growing. I backed into the tunnel center and tripped over something buried in the dirt. My hand brushed fabric, cloth so old it crumbled to dust. Beneath it was a skull. But the skull wasn't human. Too long, the jaw sharp like an animal's. I swung the light lower. There were dozens, hundreds, stacked beneath the soil, their sockets black and wet. Then the candles relit by themselves. Every flame burned blue. The tunnel expanded with light, revealing a large stone archway at the far end. Above it, scratched in rusty red, was a single word, listen. I moved closer. My recorder clicked back on, glowing red in my pocket though I never touched it. We were told she would return. She never buried us. The air turned colder. My breath clouded. The dirt beneath me shifted, soft as quicksand. I stumbled forward through the archway into a wide chamber carved directly from rock. In the center stood an altar. On it, bones bound by wire, shaped like a human form but wrong in proportion. The arms too long, the spine curved backward. Candles surrounded it in a perfect ring. When I lifted the camera, the viewfinder showed something standing behind me. Tall, faceless, its head tilted like it was listening. I turned, nothing there. But the air rippled, like sound waves hitting my chest. My ears started ringing. Then I heard a whisper right beside my left ear, "Do you hear it breathing too?" I dropped the recorder. It kept running. I realized then, the carvings, the candles, the bones, this wasn't a haunting. It was a containment. Someone had sealed something in here centuries ago, using sound. The symbols weren't written, they were sung. I crouched, studying one of the circles. As I leaned close, the dirt inside it pulsed outward, breathing. And from that breathing came a single phrase, spoken by a voice that sounded exactly like mine, "Welcome back." The flashlight went out. The chamber plunged into black. And I heard footsteps start circling me. Slow. Deliberate. Always just behind. I didn't scream. I couldn't. My throat locked, like the air had turned to water. I pressed my back to the altar, clutching the dead recorder. Something exhaled beside me. Long. Wet. Close enough to touch. Whisper. It remembers the ones who listen. I stumbled backward, hit the altar, and it shifted. The bones fell apart, spilling across the dirt. Underneath, a hole gaped open. A tunnel deeper still. From that hole came a sound I can't describe, something between a sigh and 1,000 whispers, all saying my name. I aimed my dead camera at the hole anyway. And something in the dark answered the gesture by whispering clicked. I don't remember climbing out of that tunnel. I only remember running. When I came to, I was in the main floor hallway again, mud smeared on my hands, camera cracked but still recording. My chest burned like I'd inhaled smoke. Every window was fogged from the inside, as if the house itself was sweating. The recorder light was blinking red. It shouldn't have been working at all. I played the last few seconds. My voice echoed, distorted and desperate. It's awake, it's under the floor, it's using sound to find me. Then a pause, and another voice, raspy, female, whispering over mine. You shouldn't have answered. I pressed stop. Silence. But the air around me felt charged, like standing beneath high-voltage wires. Each breath I took made the walls breathe back. I scanned the room. The furniture had shifted. Chairs were turned toward the walls. A piano that hadn't been there before now sat in the corner, keys yellowed and cracked. One note played by itself, just a low, dull A, again and again, like the house was tuning itself. Then the walls began to hum. It started faintly, a vibration through the floorboards, spreading up through the walls, then resonating in my bones. Every hair on my arm stood up. The EMF reader, dead minutes ago, suddenly flared to life, all lights red. I covered my ears, but the sound wasn't in the air anymore. It was inside me. I ran toward the front door. It was open, daylight spilling through, but when I crossed the threshold, the light flickered and turned orange. I was back in the basement. I screamed without sound. The house was folding around me, room by room, like a maze rearranging itself. The only constant was the humming. And under that hum, voices. Not screaming. Whispering names. Sarah. Thomas. May. Elijah. I froze. Those were the names from the family portraits upstairs. The ones with the eyes missing. I forced myself to move. Each step echoed wrong, like walking inside someone else's heartbeat. My flashlight flickered with every sound I made. Then I saw something glinting in the dirt. A photograph, black and white, edges burned. A woman in a long dress stood in front of the farmhouse. Her head was turned slightly, her hair hiding her face. Behind her, in the window, something enormous leaned against the glass. When I flipped the photo, a message was written in red ink, "She hears you now." The lights went out again. I could still hear that piano upstairs, one key repeating. Then two. Then a third, a slow melody forming on its own. I climbed the staircase, every step screaming under my weight. The piano played louder as I neared the second floor, though no one was there. The lid of the piano was open, strings trembling on their own. Inside, where the hammers should have been, were teeth. Hundreds of them. Human. Pressed into the strings like keys. I stepped back, my breath shaking. Then, from behind the piano, a hand appeared. Thin. Grey. Fingernails black with dirt. It gripped the edge and pulled itself upright. A woman's figure rose. Her head twitched as though she were listening to something I couldn't hear. Her skin shimmered like wet wax, and where her ears should have been, there were small, empty holes. She turned her face toward me. Her mouth opened wider than humanly possible. No tongue, just a hollow cavity that pulsed with sound. The noise that came out wasn't a scream. It was a frequency. A violent, piercing note that shattered my flashlight and sent me to my knees. My teeth rattled. My ears bled. I crawled toward the wall, pressing my palms over my ears, but it didn't stop. The sound was inside me again. And then I realized she wasn't trying to kill me. She was calling something else. Through the floor, I felt movement. Heavy. Crawling upward from the cellar. The sound deepened, like a chorus of breathing beneath the earth. The piano exploded, sending wood and bone scattering across the room. When I opened my eyes, she was gone. But on the wall, drawn in the same red ink as the photo, were 4 words, "Don't stop listening now." Then the house went quiet. Completely. I didn't move for what felt like hours. Then I heard my voice whisper right beside my ear, "It's not the house that's haunted. It's the silence." And the world seemed to tilt sideways. The air rippled, and I was standing back in the living room again, like nothing had happened. Only the recorder in my pocket was warm, almost hot, and when I took it out, the tape was still spinning, though I'd never pressed play. I pressed stop, and the voice that spoke wasn't mine. "Part of you stayed behind." I don't know how long I sat there after the recorder spoke. Time didn't move right inside that place. When I finally stood, my legs felt weightless, as if gravity itself had thinned. The farmhouse was still, every door half open like it had been listening too closely and was holding its breath. I needed to leave. I said the words out loud just to hear a human sound again, "I'm walking out now." But my own voice echoed back from every direction, each echo a little slower, a little older. The front door waited at the end of the hall, moonlight seeping through its seams. I started toward it. With every step the light dimmed, replaced by that same orange flicker from the basement. The air thickened, dust and whispers mixing until the difference vanished. "Don't stop listening, don't stop!" I pressed my hands over my ears. Useless. The sound was already inside me again, curling through my ribs like breath. Then, out of the hum, a new voice formed, familiar, calm, my own. "If you leave now, it follows you." I turned toward the mirror by the stairs. My reflection stared back, but it moved a fraction too late. When it finally smiled, I didn't. I whispered, "What are you?" The reflection mouthed, "I'm the recording." All the tape reels in my bag snapped open at once, spilling black ribbon across the floor. The thin plastic curled like living vines, tightening around my ankles, pulling me toward the basement door that had somehow reappeared behind me. I tried cutting the ribbons free, but they melted into smoke. The smell of hot dust and ozone filled my lungs. Down below, the whispering deepened into a single sound, one endless inhale. When I reached the basement door, it wasn't wood anymore. It was soft, pulsing slightly, like a throat waiting to speak. Every instinct screamed to run, yet something steadier whispered back, "If you don't listen, you'll never leave." So I pressed my ear against it. Behind that door wasn't noise. It was memory. I heard children laughing, a woman singing that same single note from the nursery, footsteps pacing above them, the slam of a cellar hatch, centuries of sound trapped and replaying. The house wasn't haunted by ghosts. It was the ghosts, an echo chamber of every voice that had ever entered. And now it had mine. The door unsealed with a sigh. Warm light flooded through, brighter than any candle. I stepped forward and felt the floor shift under my feet like the surface of a drum. The whole structure vibrated, timbers groaning, walls humming in perfect pitch. The hollow house was awake. My recorder switched on by itself. The red light pulsed once, twice. Then a final message played, layered in dozens of voices, men and women, all overlapping, "We keep what listens." I ran. I don't remember how. I just remember the cold night air hitting my face and realizing I was standing in the field again. Stars overhead, dawn breaking on the horizon. The farmhouse stood silent behind me, every window dark. I waited for something. Screams, footsteps, any proof it was real. Nothing. Only wind and birds waking up. When I looked down, the recorder was still in my hand. Its light blinked green, recording. I raised it to my mouth and whispered the last entry. Case 42, Hollow House. No further activity. Leaving site. But when I played it back, my voice didn't sound right. It was slower, deeper, and in the background, faint but certain, the house was humming. That was 3 weeks ago. Every night since, I hear the same hum beneath the walls of my apartment. Sometimes, if I stay very still, I can make out words forming inside it. Last night, it said my name. Tonight, it's already humming again. I think I brought it home. Sound, faint recorder click, then silence.